everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast, Thursday, 5 p.m. And boy, do we have a loaded show for you. Zach, I know there's a part of you that laments the fact that, we've got all these shows coming up when there's no Eagles football to talk about, and they've piled on all this stuff. We could have used some more drips and drabs here to get us through, but no, the onslaught, drinking from a fire hose. We have the final practice of mandatory minicamp to talk about. We spoke to Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. We spoke to both rookie corners. We spoke to Mekhi Becton. We've got big news in the Jeffrey Lurie world. We've got big news in the front office. Changes abound in the scouting staff and with Dom DeSandro. Lots of stuff to get to. Zach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You hit it on the head. That was my exact sentiment. I wish this was like over the next 2 weeks. There was a morsel of news here, piece of information there, right? We have so much here on a 5 o'clock Thursday show. I'm actually happy, though, that it's a 5 o'clock show because some of the information here, had we done a show earlier today, we would not have the chance to get to.
There you go. Now, you and Rich, Handsome Rich, will be live tomorrow at noon to maybe talk about some of the other stuff here. But I think we should start, Zach, with the Jeffrey Lurie news. Okay. Now, I know yesterday we had some fun about, me being a dumb ogre. Today, I needed to explain this one to me like a dumb guy because I am a dumb guy when it comes to the big money here. You're Mr. Stock Market. Okay. Tell me what it means when Bloomberg reports that Jeffrey Lurie is looking for a buyer for a minority stake in the Philadelphia Eagles.
Sure. So basically I'll speak on a very elementary level here.
Please.
If you think about the equity is a pie and you're selling
football money, what? I don't understand.
You're selling a piece of that pie, right? And the key thing here, and this is according to Bloomberg, but from my understanding, this is accurate, that there's no path to controlling interest, right? So they're showing a minority stake, which would give somebody or an institution, because if you remember in Nashville at the league meetings last month, they spoke about private equity being permitted to buy in the team. So we'll kind of see that development. But what this would allow is a team is someone or a group to buy into the Eagles, take a stake of the team. And what's also notable here is the $7.5 billion valuation. That would be the highest valuation in the NFL. I think
for the team as a whole, not for the percentage that they would be willing to sell.
Yes. So that's the overall valuation. So if someone were, in theory, if someone were to buy 1% at a $7.5 billion valuation, it would be $75 million. If someone were to buy 10%, it would be $750 million, right? And so you can kind of do the math based on that. But I can't speak to Jeffrey Lurie's intentions with this. What would matter for Eagles fans is that the team would stay with Jeffrey and his family, but there would be other minority investors. And there are minority owners as it is right now. But I imagine for the Eagles to put this up or to have a group looking for buyers, there will be enough of a piece of that pie, if you will, to entice somebody else, right? It wouldn't be like a fraction of a percentage for them to solicit buyers, if you will, right? So that's a key part here. And it could be, a cash infusion, there's a number of different things you could say.
I have a lot of mini follow-ups here.
Yes. Okay.
Things that I want to check the box on. First of all, you mentioned that there are currently other minority owners, but your understanding is they have not taken on any minority owners in any recent past, right? This is a new thing.
Relatively recent past. Yeah.
Okay.
I do believe that Christina Lurie, Jeffrey's ex-wife, has a stake in the team, right? In that they had a divorce in 2012, in 2012, I believe, 2011, 2012, thereabouts, right? So a relatively recent past. But no, I think the ownership's been what it's been.
Okay. What is the incentive for a buyer to come in and get, whatever percentage of the team?
It's a good question. So there's a handful.
If there is no path.
Yeah. Yeah. So number one, you can look at it like any other type of investment. That if you believe that this investment will continue appreciating, then your piece of the pie will appreciate. If you invested in the Eagles 20 years ago or 10 years ago, that investment would appreciate considerably. So there could be that component of it. Sometimes there's a vanity component of it too, right? There are only 31 NFL teams that are not publicly traded, right? The Green Bay Packers are publicly traded. This is a very exclusive fraternity. To own a stake of a team, even if you don't have controlling interest, it provides proximity, and there's certainly value in that. And I know some of that I know minority owners with the Eagles who you can see in the locker room or at practice or in the draft room, whatever it may be, right? And so there's certainly proximity to something that is exclusive, right? And there could be other reasons too, but I think either from an investment perspective or from, I don't like to say vanity perspective, but yeah, proximity to something exclusive. It is a very desirable property. Owning a team is a very desirable property. There's much more demand than there is supply.
Okay. And then I think the most important question here is, what would be the reason for Jeffrey Lurie to do this now? What would be his incentive?
Yeah, so I obviously can't speak for Jeffrey. That's pretty clear. But a $7.5 billion valuation is pretty significant, right? So let's use the numbers that we said. Like in theory, if someone buys 1%, 75 million, like we said, someone buys 10%, 750 million. That's a significant cash infusion to Jeffrey or the projects, whatever it may be, right? So it could be that there's a number of different things there's a number of different reasons someone would want liquidity, but that would jump out if there are certain projects that the team might take on. Certainly having that type of valuation is advantageous. But yeah, I mean, you imagine that it's a way of raising money essentially.
Sure. And you and I have written about this along with Sheil in the past about how relative to other owners in the NFL, Jeffrey is not a, this is his main thing. He doesn't have other revenue streams, right? He's not like a captain of industry, ripping people off with Flying J or whatever it is. Like this is his main thing. So it's possible that he just needs or wants an infusion of cash himself. Is this? Would you worry? Are you from a succession angle? Julian Lurie is set up. We all believe that eventually down the line he's going to be the new owner. Are you worried about like a Fox in the hen house type thing? You're bringing somebody in, giving them a small percentage, and then all of a sudden they're going to start pulling away more percentages and try, even if there is no path to controlling, they're going to try to get controlling.
I can't predict the future, but I don't anticipate that being the case. I think I've had these conversations. We've had these conversations that Jeffrey Lurie's very interested in Julian taking over the team, and I would imagine any type of transaction would ensure there's nothing inhibiting that, so long as that's still Julian's aspiration. I can tell you, to the point that you said before, Jeffrey Lurie purchased the team in 1994 for $185 million. At the time, it was the highest that had been paid for a team. The Wall Street Journal panned the purchase. Jeffrey specifically has told me this. He remembers that.
I can't imagine the Wall Street Journal getting something wrong.
And they panned this purchase. And now to get from 185 million to $7.5 billion, like that's a great leap. But I bring that up as a way of saying, I understand these are large numbers no matter what, right? Like I'm not saying that, but to your point, for Joshua Harris to purchase the Commanders at $6.5 billion, or what was it, $6.5 billion for the Broncos. I think they sold for $4.65 billion, right? To the Penners, right? So the point being, like, for one to purchase teams at that price, Jeffrey, or I'm sorry, Tepper in Carolina, what was that, $2 billion or so, $2.5 billion? That requires a lot of a lot of money, and probably
right. So is there incentive just to get it on the books that the 7.5
there is
billion valuation is there, and probably still only rising?
No, but I'm saying in this is kind of to buttress your point about outside cash flow. Like, it takes a certain amount of cash flow to purchase a team at $6 billion compared to purchasing a team at
Sure.
$185 million, right? And so that the stakes of NFL ownership has increased significantly, right? And so, yeah, certainly it there's definitely value in having that. And by the way, too, like, I don't want to be skeptical here, but for them to have an institution helping them find buyers for this stake, and for this to appear in Bloomberg, right? It's very much like the Eagles are seeking this, as it's you're able to. I don't know what you're laughing at there.
I'm laughing at Dan McQuaid saying Larry's going to use the money to get the windmills back on top of the stadium.
No, but I'm saying, like, there's sometimes where there's transactions behind the scenes, like, right? So for this to come out, this can also be interpreted as a means of soliciting interest for this,
right?
Yeah.
You talked yesterday, Zach, about how the best feeling in the world is making your kids laugh. I'm happy to report that I was able to repurpose my Josh Harris face to really crack up Jane yesterday. It was really a total home run.
Oh, good. I'm glad that went to use. But Josh Harris, by the way, that's a good example. Like, when he bought the Sixers, and there were a number of different minority owners, right? Michael Rubin was a minority owner. Will Smith had a small stake in the team. But you say, why would someone buy in? It's for that. It's like for access to something special. And like the reason why Joshua Harris and David Blitzer have gone on and purchased other teams. This is like, it's been good business. Sports franchises have risen at an exceedingly high pace. If you look at simply television ratings, right? Sports are the television deals that are you see the NBA deal that's coming around now. This is if it's much easier said than done, but teams tend to appreciate quite a bit, and there can always be a tipping point. But Mark Cuban just sold a majority stake in the Dallas Mavericks. Sometimes you can strike when there's a high valuation, and that, I think, is what I imagine that's what Jeffrey Lurie is doing.
Two questions. First, how high does the NVIDIA stock price have to get for you to be involved in the bidding?
Yeah, I'm not involved.
Or at least to be curious, to be interested about maybe dipping your toe in. Make it at least maybe an exploratory phone call to Jeffrey.
No. The stock there would be a lot more people in front of the line than me, put it that way. So,
well, maybe they're not interested.
I think there'd be a lot of people interested who own NVIDIA stock.
Okay. The more important question.
Yes.
From an Eagles fan perspective.
Yeah.
Why should I care about this? Does this matter? Is there anything, down the pike that would make you a little bit skittish as an Eagles fan?
Yeah, good question. The first thing I would say, why should you care about this? I hate to say it, but palace intrigue, right? People are always intrigued by the palace, so to speak. I don't think there's going to be anything here that materially affects the Eagles, or materially affects the Eagles fans. If this story didn't come out and there was a silent transaction behind the scenes, there would be nothing, I think, that would have a material effect on Eagles fans. Now, that said, I think there are significant things coming up with the Eagles that are worth watching that go beyond what's on the field. We talked about it at the owners' meetings. Jeffrey Lurie made a reference to the stadium lease coming up at the end of this decade, right? Now they could renew the lease, but there could also be capital improvements. A Lincoln Financial Field is not new anymore. NovaCare Complex is not new anymore, as we're seeing with the 76ers right now, as we've seen with other teams. Public funding or public financing for stadiums is not, it's not what it was 25 years ago when Joe Banner and Jeffrey Lurie were building Lincoln Financial Field, right? So I imagine if you look at what's coming up from an ownership level for the Eagles, facilities is a big thing. If you're following the story about Comcast Spectacor and the complex they want to have in South Philly, and there's a good piece up now. Charlie O'Connor, the Flyers ownership, spoke yesterday. This is a big deal with Flyers ownership, and the Eagles. There's talk of whether or not the Eagles would be involved in this. So I think from a fan perspective, from an ownership level, what you want, and we've talked about Jeffrey Lurie, his willingness to pay well for players, for coaches, pay cash for players and coaches, right? So you want that organizational stability there. But I think beyond like the football product, the big thing to watch in the next 6 to 8 years for the Eagles is what happens with facilities.
Okay. Yeah, I think the thing that you touched on there is the only thing that would, worry me if you're an Eagles fan is a lot of the things that Jeffrey Lurie does relative to other owners in the league are go a long way in what makes the Eagles a good organization,
Yes.
right? His willingness to pay and overpay for football operations staff, be that, Jeff Stoutland being like the highest paid position coach in the league, or general manager salaries or head coach salaries, stuff like that. That stuff matters in terms of just attracting talent. And then also like from a roster building standpoint, like eating dead money and being, willing to pay cash, as opposed to the Dallas Cowboys, right? Who do not do that. If there were like a private equity group that came in and, had less of an appetite for that, and if they had a say in things and they changed the Eagles' operating philosophy in that way, then that would eat away at some of their structural advantages.
True, although the inverse could be true as well, in the sense that the NFL before last month, when there's talks of allowing private equity to buy stakes in teams, everything's been institutional. It's been family or it hasn't been corporate owned. That's not been allowed in the NFL, and that's a major difference to other sports. And there is a considerable difference between someone like these longstanding owners. You look at teams like the Giants or the Bengals or the Raiders compared to the cash flow that might be possible for someone coming in with a lot of money. Like if you're looking in the NBA, new ownership and has changed things quite a bit, and you're much more familiar with European football, soccer, than I am. But my understanding
game
from reading about this quite a bit is like especially foreign ownership and institutional ownership from abroad has dramatically changed.
You're worried about the Saudis. You're worried about the PIF.
No, but that's dramatically changed the state of the Premier League, correct?
Yes.
So you can get to a point where like there's an ownership group that just has so much more to spend than other ownership groups, which has not necessarily been as pronounced when it's simply family ownership.
Now, when you say buying a stake in a team,
mm-hmm.
We're talking like a T-bone, ribeye. Explain this to me.
Yeah, we're talking a piece of a pie, right? We're talking. So this is how I would explain it to you, Bo. Take a pizza. Okay, cut a pizza into 8 slices.
You got a pizza shop, and all the customers come in and they say, this shouldn't be a pizza shop. This should be a porn shop. And you say, okay, I got to listen to the customers. That's what we got to do.
Let's cut the pizza.
Throw steaks at them.
Yeah, let's cut the pizza into 10 slices, and you take 1 slice. Then you have 10% equity in that pizza. I have 90% equity in that pizza. But if you took 8 slices, then you have 80% equity in that pizza, and I have 20% equity.
That's only if you assume that they were cut equally.
True. I was talking about equal Eagle slices. So that is essentially what is happening with the Eagles, and it's going to be an interesting story to follow.
It reminds me of one of the great differences, I think, and probably the biggest positive in the French Open versus the other major Grand Slams. Deuce, take it or leave it. Not, it's confusing for people getting into the game. It's like, what do we mean here? Deuce. In French, égalité. Ooh, beautiful. Equality. That's perfect. That's so much better. Big bump for égalité over deuce.
Yeah, the French is over my head.
All right, Zach, let's talk about our friends at Olipop, because Olipop is the world's first functional soda with a classic soda taste and the benefits of plant-based fiber, prebiotics, and other botanical ingredients to support gut health. Olipop is a new kind of soda with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of fiber per can. Olipop is available online and available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including the most recent launch at all Wawa stores, wherein you can get the 2 most popular Olipop flavors. We are talking their classic root beer, home run of a flavor, tastes just like root beer, and strawberry vanilla. What is better than that? A soda that tastes good and is good for you. Olipop conducted a study that showed that their Ollie Smart formulation boosts beneficial gut bacteria and generates metabolites supporting digestive and overall health. Olipop has delicious, nostalgic flavors ranging from the aforementioned classic root beer and strawberry vanilla to vintage cola, orange squeeze, classic grape, cream soda, and cherry cola. Olipop. If you want to get in on the action, you can use the code PHLY20 for 20% off your next Olipop order. The discount only applies to one-time orders, not to subscription orders. Olipop is sold online at drinkolipop.com. That's DRINKOLIPOP.com. Also on Amazon and available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, Wegmans, ShopRite, and GoPuff. Olipop.
So Bo, we're talking about becoming a part owner of a team and the appeal to that. Think about it this way. Wouldn't you love to be a part owner of a credit union? Well, let's think about TrueMark Financial Credit Union, because when you join a credit union like TrueMark Financial, you become the part owner, which means profits come back to you instead of going to shareholders. That's a plus side of being an owner, right? It goes to you. Better rates, lower fees, and better return on savings, and more flexible options with all the same digital tools and tech to make our lives easier. TrueMark has local roots. It's headquartered in Fort Washington, where Joey went to high school. And with 24 branches in the Philly area, they serve our community and our people right here at home. Becoming a member of a credit union has so many benefits over being a customer of a bank. It's a total no-brainer. So join the credit union, check your account, and see if you can purchase a stake in the Philadelphia Eagles. Head over to TrueMark.com/PHLY to learn more or find a branch near you. That's TrueMark.com/PHLY. It's federally insured by the NCUA.
All right, Zach, let's move on from the top of the Eagles structural pyramid and go down just a little bit and talk about some of the announced changes that they have made to the front office staff. And let's start with everybody's favorite, Dom DeSandro. The Eagles have added to his title. It was before, as I pull this up, it was senior advisor to the general manager / chief security officer. Now it is that, with also addition to another / game day coaching operations. And I think that this is interesting on 2 fronts. On the one hand, you have the Derek Gunn report from the postseason, talking about how part of the loss of Dom DeSandro in the second half of the season was the inability for him to corral Nick Sirianni on the sideline, and like that was a real factor of things that were happening during game days. The second thing here is, obviously, I take this as a bit of a not so subtle middle finger to the league office. Like, you took away our guy because of whatever his role was. Now he's actually a coach and he's allowed to be on the sideline doing whatever he wants.
Precisely. I think you framed it well there. I don't mean to like knock all the Eagles titles here, but Dom is Dom, right? Dom runs he runs his domain. So he's the senior advisor to the general manager. He's the chief security officer. He's the game day coaching operations. And the point that you made is exactly what this is. This gives him formal game day responsibilities. So on the sideline, he's considered more than a security official. He's considered a part of the coaching staff.
Okay. Do you think that this materially changes anything?
I think that it doesn't, unless there's a sideline scuffle again and Dom breaks it up, then the view on Dom, like the actual responsibilities for Dom, are like formally different than they were maybe a year ago. But no, I think Dom's job is still Dom's job.
Okay, let's stay in the football operations and talk about a few of the highlights here. And maybe we can get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty on this next week at some point, Zach. But a few people that I think are important for Eagles fans to know. We'll just go down the list here. Bryce Johnston, who with Jake Rosenberg having left the organization, seems like he has inherited sort of like the in charge of the cap guy, right? And it's obviously more than that. He was promoted from vice president of football transactions and strategic planning to senior vice president / tertiary football executive. I don't think that I've heard tertiary football executive before.
I have not either. The Eagles are creative at creating titles, and that is a new one for me. But certainly the bump from vice president to senior VP, and this supports what we've been saying ever since March, that Bryce Johnston is, I don't want to say he's the new Jake, right? But he is in charge of cap management, team strategy in that regard, right? That's his responsibility.
And also just, I mean, a great story. A guy who was
amazing story.
Talk about like do the job that you want, not the job that you have, was just running an Eagles salary cap website, then gets plucked by the front office and has worked his way up.
What have we been doing during that time? He was, we were covering the team while he was doing that. Now he's a senior vice president, and we're doing, bird puns. So
speak for yourself. Adam Berry, twin brother of Andrew Berry, the recently extended general manager of the Cleveland Browns. Adam Berry promoted from director of football operations and strategy to vice president of football operations and strategy. And I think, you talk about the Eagles GM pipeline. I think Howie Roseman would tell you that he probably expects Adam Berry to be a general manager at some point down the line. Yeah,
good point there. And growing in the organization, the Eagles hired him from Wall Street, and he's grown now. He's going into year 3 in the Eagles front office, I believe. And you put it well there. This is a rapid ascension, but I know he's very well regarded in that building.
Jeff Scott goes from director of football operations to vice president of football operations. Connor Barwin from director of player development to head of football development and strategy. Katie David, who has been with the team a long time, goes from football operations director to chief of staff to the general manager. Zach Drapkin in the analytics silo goes from quantitative analyst to senior quantitative analyst. And Matt Leo, who was sort of with the organization in a nebulous role, aside from making waves with the thong, is now officially player development assistant.
Yeah, all of those are notable. Jeff Scott, someone well regarded in the organization. I mean,
is it Jeff Scott or Scott Jeff?
It is Jeff Scott. Came over from Washington, has continued to grow there, has a big part in the front office there. And then Connor Barwin. I've written extensively about Connor. Probably have a soft spot there for Connor, but he's a sharp guy. He's involved in a lot of different parts of the building, football development and strategy, and then also part owner of Trieste.
Now, is there finals? Has it happened yet?
I've been so loaded up in minicamp. I am embarrassed to say I'm behind. Connor, if you're watching, I'm going to look that up tonight. During the NBA playoffs, I will check out how Trieste is doing.
I would say for Connor Barwin, he was never the level of celebrity of Jason Kelce, right? But this is a guy who has lots of options, lots of interests. And as we talk about like what Jason Kelce does next, I think it's notable that Connor Barwin has all of these things, lots of opportunities to his disposal. It probably says a lot about his value to the organization, that he is there and working as hard as he is and is there as much as he is, and also that he continues to move upwards. Like obviously this is someone that they value, and not just from a come around and shake hands and tell guys about your playing days situation.
Oh no, he's very much invested and like cares and is a part of this and has good ideas to contribute. Similar to Jason Kelce, though, he has his hands in a lot of different areas. Outside of this, I mentioned Trieste. He has his foundation to make the world a better place. He's a partner with Kelce and their production company, right? You know, when they with the documentary, with the Christmas album, like that's Kelce and Barwin together.
All right, let's talk about the scouting department.
And by the way, shout out to Zach Drapkin as well. He's someone who I've heard good things about, and a local guy.
Love that.
Yep.
Do you think that it's Drapkin like napkin, or do you think it's Drapkin like do the carpets match do the carpetkins match the Drapekins?
I think I'm not sure. I don't know. Drapkin. But yeah, I think Lower Merion, Penn. Yeah, he's from the area.
No wonder you like the guy.
No wonder I like the guy. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the scouting staff. Charles Walls goes by Chuck Walls to some, and Alan Walking. Both were directors of player personnel, now both vice presidents of player personnel. I would say more people in the future general manager pipeline for the Eagles, fair to say.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this over to you because this is a great story Bo wrote a few years ago when Walking was a road scout. You saw firsthand what it was like. So you see now and ascend in the organization.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite days on the job, I would say. Shadowing Alan at the school visit to Tennessee. I mean, I would say, like, dropping the objectivity, I think he's a very good guy. Like, I like an Alan Walking, and he strikes me as a smart guy. I think just relative to the structure of the front office, it's worth noting, like, he is the one who has been there the longest.
Yeah,
and he has truly, like, risen up from the very bottom rungs of the scouting department in the organization and slowly climbed the ladder without having gone anywhere. Whereas a lot of the other people who have risen to that level have sort of jumped around from other places. Not that is good nor bad, but just in terms of the dynamics in the organization, it's interesting that he has been there the longest and continues to rise. VP of player personnel. I would imagine that, if things go well, then maybe a general manager one day.
Precisely. That's exactly why I pitched it to you, because that story showed, and at the time he had more responsibilities than just like an area scout, right? But how he's gone from an area scout to one of the most important people in the scouting department. A vice president of player personnel is as high as you're going to go outside of assistant GM in this league.
Brandon Hunt goes from director of scouting to senior director of scouting, and Phil Baya, who is someone who is a younger person in the front office and has risen up through the organization, has only been with the Eagles. He goes from director of college scouting to director of player personnel.
Yeah, local guy as well. Great story there. And actually, he's like the opposite of Zach Drapkin or Drapkin, whichever one you want to call it, because he's South Jersey suburbs, okay, and Princeton. Okay, so you go from Pennsylvania suburbs and Penn to South Jersey suburbs and Princeton.
Another person you hear really good things about from people behind the scenes is Amina Solomon, who goes from a director of personnel operations / pro scout to director of football operations / pro scout. And I think it's worth noting that so you have Amina, who is a woman, and also two of the announced new hires in the organization, also female. So good to see some, not just white guys being hired. Good for them.
Yeah, and I'm really qualified people, smart young people, and you're absolutely right. I mean, this is something that Howie Roseman's been, very he's been aggressive about finding people of different, I would say a range of diversity, whether it is skin color, gender, but also backgrounds. There's people from all all different types of walks of life here when it comes to like their path to the Eagles and how he's been
Philadelphia
aggressive.
suburbs, South Jersey suburbs, all.
No, I mean,
all the
like, no, you have people who played football. You have people who did not play football. You have people who've worked in college departments. You have people who work in NFL departments. You have someone who work in investment banking, right? So there's a lot of different backgrounds, and that's something Howie's paid attention to, and to Howie's credit, like, the league incentivizes, like literally incentivizes minority hires from like the higher ups of the organization. But what Howie's done is they've had a strong pipeline from like the lower levels of the organization. People, such as Ian Cunningham and Brandon Brown and Caitlin Raich, right, have gone on to bigger jobs from the lower levels or the mid levels of the Eagles front office.
Jeremy Gray goes from assistant director of pro scouting to assistant director of player personnel. Cam Bradfield moves from the mid-Atlantic to the Southwest, where Brad Obie left the organization. And then Terrence Braxton, actually, I deleted what his new title is.
He's player personnel
coordinator. And then the other interesting thing here, Tim McManus had reported just before the announcement had come out that Ted Rath, who we understood to be like the player performance guy,
Yep.
like the face of sports science in the organization, had left the organization. And this is interesting because when we talked to, I believe it was Devin White the other day about no, it was Paris Campbell who was talking about the injury prevention operations, like the apparatus that they have here with the Eagles having stood out as different than the places he has been. He mentioned Fernando Noriega and not Ted Rath. So honestly, that probably should have tipped us off. Kudos to Tim for tracking that down. But Fernando Noriega, now director of player performance and sports science / head strength and conditioning coach, in addition to Ben Wagner and Dustin Woods also being involved there.
Yeah, and so the Eagles have kind of spread Ted's responsibilities around. Ted's been on the speaking circuit recently, and he did have a big role in the organization, and it seems the Eagles are splitting that up now. And Fernando is the key figure there.
All right.
I am though very curious about Dustin Woods' title, interpersonal performance director.
It's teaching people how to have better conversations.
I need to sign up for that one for sure.
I mean,
next time I see
throw
Dustin,
just a few words of mumbo jumbo in there, and Zach will be there.
Next time I do have the story a few years ago. Dustin writes inspirational messages on the sandwiches for Devontae Smith. Is that right?
I think that's right.
Yeah. So next time I see Dustin in the locker room, I'm gonna ask him for some conversational help.
I'd like to see how that goes. I hope you. When that happens.
I sure know I need it. So
there you go. All right. Well, maybe one thing you could do, Zach, to maybe loosen it up for you, help those interpersonal conversations, is just suck one back. Grab yourself a nice cold Miller Lite, crack the top, and suck it down, because a lot has changed over the years. But one thing that hasn't is the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that hasn't changed, is that it remains less filling. So what is the best thing about the original light beer? Is it the great taste? Is it less filling? Great taste, less filling. Great taste, less filling. Rip off the clothes. Well, good thing is you don't have to decide. Miller Lite sparked this debate in 1975, and we still haven't settled it. So when you are debating and dreaming about all of these changes to the Eagles front office, or maybe do you think that we could, all of us buzz, can we pool together enough money to get 10% of the Eagles? Let's make a call to Jeffrey Lurie. Well, maybe highfalutin, but if you're having a couple Miller Lights, you might as well dream about it, because it's all about the great times that you have when you're sucking it back with your friends. Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like beer, less filling, and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. You don't have to choose what's best. Great taste, less filling. You don't have to choose. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLY-Birds, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces, fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
Yeah, there's a joke sometimes that minority owners, what they get is access to better tickets, right? And I say you don't need to buy into a team to get better tickets. You just need to have the Game Time app on your phone.
Hey-oh.
Because Game Time, because Game Time is the place to go for killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seats, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, including MLB tickets. I think the Phils are the hottest place to go right now. Citizens Bank Park is the place to be this summer. There's a great demand for these tickets. If you don't know somebody, sometimes I'm lucky to know Vince if I ever want to get into a ball game from time to time. But if Vince's tickets are going somewhere else, I just pull up the Game Time app and I find the specific game or matchup that I would love to attend. And I know that I'm going to get the seats that I want at a good deal on Game Time. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for MLB and every kind of event in the area. And there's views from all seats in the venue. So I admit that I don't have a great perspective of many seats in Citizens Bank Park. I've spent a lot of time in the press box there. And then I've taken Reed from time to time. I tried getting tickets from scalpers outside. I know not to do that. I know to use the Game Time app. And then I know Vince's seats. But if I am going on there and I say, oh, what's this section? What's the view like here? I can find that on the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with the Game Time. With Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I'm so excited to swing this bat, Zach.
I'm so excited to see you swing the bat. Yeah.
I'm so excited. What's your take on opinion on men walking around with their shirts on? Just like in the course of the day.
Wait, say this again? With men walking around with their shirts on?
Without their shirts on.
Oh, without their shirts. Is this a thing? Like at the beach?
I saw a guy in the neighborhood today walking with a stroller. No shirt.
I mean, maybe he's proud of himself. He wants to.
I mean, obviously he's proud of himself. He's showing something off, but like.
Yeah. It's like who's was it Sean McVay that you joked about when they had Hard Knocks?
Nobody loves seeing themselves topless more than Sean McVay.
Yeah, the shirt was off in the first 5 minutes.
I truly had to restrain myself from just going for the bit and just taking my shirt off as I walked past him. I thought that would have been really funny. I thought it would have slayed. I know that it would have, but I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah. No, I'm a proponent of keeping the shirt on.
It was like 7:45 in the morning. I mean, it was very humid this morning.
It doesn't matter.
I will give him that.
If you're not at the pool, you're not at the beach, keep your shirt on.
Pants, I understand. You want to walk around with no pants, that's fine.
I don't know what goes on outside the Wolf household, but no, pants are a requirement.
Okay. All right, Zach, let's talk about the actual practice we saw today. It was a light practice.
16 minutes to do it, yeah.
that we have seen.
Yeah.
Only 2 sessions, really, of 7-on-7 or team periods with the starters. A few things to talk about. It was, they did red zone to start with in terms of the rotating cast of characters at cornerback with the first team. It was Isaiah Rodgers to start the day, Keely Ringo with the second session, and there were really only 2 sessions. What did you see? Anything notable? Anything pop out?
Overall, or
anything.
I thought
this was the least action of the practice, the 5 practices that we have seen this spring.
Yeah, Johnny Wilson made a nice catch right in front of us.
It was a nice play. That was like a proof of concept play because it was him going up over Isaiah Rodgers. It was tight coverage, and it was exactly the kind of play that you dream about when you add Johnny Wilson to your team. It's the kind of play that you think that he can make because he is the size that he is, and it was a really nice play.
Well said. I still, I give all the statements of prefacing. It's not a big deal. I didn't think Jalen was exceptional today, right? There was a pass that he missed down the left sideline. So I don't have my notes in front of me there. He did hit Goddard once for a score, but it was kind of late on the play. But yeah, I didn't think the offense was like exceptional today. It's kind of been a theme throughout. Jalen said afterwards that a lot of this is just kind of like learning and applying the system. 95% of it is new. So it is what you'd expect. There is a big acclimation period here. And that's essentially what OTAs are for. You know, if anyone saw my rough drafts and my stories, they're not very good.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Sometimes the final drafts aren't very good
How
either.
many drafts you go? How many drafts are we talking?
Well, no, actually, I got to be honest with you. For like a practice observation, I'm not doing like drafts of stories. It's just
I wouldn't think so. Yeah.
It's a stream of consciousness. You're putting it up, right? But
how about a book?
Honestly, I wish I could say I had a lot of drafts of the book. I was under a confined period of time. So what you see there, I mean, it's fortunately it's edited, but you know, I hope that my third book, I have about like a year or two. You know, I was envious when Andy McCullough said he spent a year reporting and like 6 months writing or whatever. You know, I did the whole shebang in 4 months. So it's a little
you got to stop. You got to stop downplaying this book. Gas this bad
boy.
No,
I'm not downplaying it. I'm just saying that you're talking about drafts. Like, you know, they always say your best writing's your rewriting, right? There wasn't as much rewriting here, but I'm excited for the world to see it.
Me too.
And I have some cool news coming soon on the book as well. I'll save it for next week's show. A little tease.
Ooh,
I think is going to be relevant to Eagles fans. Yeah,
that's very exciting. Anything else from practice today? Because it really was a light practice.
Yeah, James Bradbury remains out. Right, so James Bradbury did not practice this week. Trying to think here. Mekhi Becton still at guard.
Yeah,
right.
Some people gassing up Kenny Pickett. Did that match what you saw today?
I honestly, I saw some of those headlines on Twitter. I haven't read the stories yet. It did not. I didn't get in my car today thinking, "Oh man, Kenny Pickett lit it up."
No,
but look, sometimes
there was a nice pass he made in the red zone period to the back of the end zone to Aeneas Smith, and it looked like Aeneas Smith had gotten both feet in, but it was ruled out. I think he was juggling as he came down. Nice to see Aeneas Smith involved a little bit. It was a good pass by Kenny Pickett, but also like a little bit into the progression, and who knows if that would have turned out to be even an actual pass.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, Jalen Hurts. You mentioned the 95% comment. What did you make of that? He said that the offense is about 95% new stuff, and then he was also asked, given sort of an open-ended, like, what have you seen from Nick in terms of his willingness to change and like embrace change? And he just sort of brushed it to the side, like that's a good question. I don't have an answer for that in this palace intrigue of everybody trying to figure out are these guys copacetic? He sort of swatted that one away. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so I'll answer the second part first. And this is like an ongoing thing with Jalen. There were two different occasions last year.
Why can't he just do it?
Yeah, there was the Seattle situation last year, right? And then there was the end of season when it was like, you know, about Nick coming back. And it's like,
why won't he just say one nice fake thing about Sirianni?
That's what I'm saying. It's that look, maybe you know you just want to be difficult with reporters. Sometimes it's like that. Like, I'm not going to give you the benefit of subscribing to your narratives. You know, like he said the day after the press conference after the Tampa Bay game, he's like, is that like, why wouldn't Nick be back? Like, is that a thing? Right. You know, he kind of gave a weird answer. Then he said the next day by his locker, he's like, I didn't even know that was a topic. Like, I mean, point being with Jalen, like he's a very smart guy. He's very intentional. I don't get why he's so tripped up at any question that's just like, say something nice about your coach here. You know,
yeah, it's so weird.
It's like because what you said, it lends to intrigue. Like there's times I get when we, the media, and the media is not one whole thing. I think you and I, if I may flex here, are very responsible and nuanced and give like smart takes. I think sometimes there's other places you can go for outrageous, you know, outrageous things, sensational things. Sometimes things just get clicks. What's that?
Name names.
No, but that said, Jalen's not helping himself when it's like when he's
like, I don't think it's a big deal, but it's also like, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the easiest thing to do is just like say something nice about, these guys get up there and there has about 10 different players, right? And you just give like generic, say, oh, this guy's playing hard, how's Nick doing? And look, I love when players think and give honest answers, but I also don't think this is like a question that should really trip you up. Nick's been great at being the head coach of the team, or he's doing a good job connecting with people. Like there's so many things he could do. It's just that struck me as odd. The
I
95,
did like the. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go on.
No, I liked his little story about Fangio. Like Fangio's been talking some smack during practice, and all he just says to him is 2-0. Like that's his record against Vic Fangio in actual games, which I like.
Yeah, that is a good one there. It's a good thing they didn't hire someone from Tampa, right?
By the way, we didn't talk about this. I really liked the nugget from Devin White about Todd Bowles. That there's the platitude of like that guy was a father figure for me, but like that they still talk all the time. And I think it's interesting from two things. One is like this is a guy who fell out of favor there last year, and by all accounts was in the doghouse. And the fact that they remain in touch, and like Bowles said that he thought that Devin White needed a change of scenery. I think probably says good things about both of them as people, right? One for Devin White to not like close that door and be open to constructive feedback, and also from Todd Bowles from like the like that is show don't tell of like the Nick Sirianni MO of like you like the creating meaningful connections. You make me better and we can be connected. Like the fact that Todd Bowles is like that, and by all accounts is like that with a lot of his players. Just a nice thing to hear.
Yeah, well said. That's a great point. I like Devin.
Now I don't think that Todd Bowles had that connection with Michael Kendricks, but
because Kendricks didn't remember him. Yeah. No, I've always said like in this job you can tell what someone really thinks about someone by like how quickly they call back. So I remember when you did the Darius Slay story a few years ago, and like Calvin Johnson calls you back, right? Calvin Johnson doesn't have to call back a reporter in Philadelphia, but clearly Darius Slay was someone that he valued, right? And so that you in the NFL, these aren't always coworkers. These are, as Jeff Stoutland said, this is your family. You spend more time with them than your family. And Devin White worked closely with Todd Bowles for 5 years. Todd Bowles was the defensive coordinator who drafted him, was his head coach. And it was interesting because he was asked about the change of scenery. And Devin's like, I don't know if I necessarily needed that, but if Todd says that, then he's probably right. So that was good.
What about Sirianni today?
Well, no, to get back to Hurts, the 95% comment.
Yes.
I want to touch on that because what that showed, frankly, was this is a totally different offense, right? The talking point from the coaching staff has been like blending the concepts from Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore together, right? And Kellen Moore says they did so many good things, you don't want to throw those out, right? And
they're explaining that some of the differences here are small and nuanced, where like it might be the exact same concept on the paper, but your keys are a little bit different, or it's called something a little bit different, or like where how the route is supposed to be run is a little bit different, things like that.
Yeah, like Devin or like Devontae Smith says, there's only so many ways to run a route. There's only so many routes you can run, right? It's not as if a coach comes in and puts in like these newfangled, things. Football's been going on for 100 years here, right? But it does show you when Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, says about 95% of it's new, that this is a new offense. This is not Kellen Moore calling Nick Sirianni's offense. And I think this is going to become abundantly clear as the season progresses, that sometimes you hire a coordinator, but it's the coach who's still running the show, right? This is Kellen Moore's offense.
I was skeptical of this when Nick Sirianni made when they made their end of season press conference, and he said like they're going to look for somebody to take over the offense. And I was skeptical of the idea that Nick Sirianni, who loves offensive football, loves his offense, was going to be willing to be hands off, and that it wasn't going to be leading to the potential of like a too many cooks in the kitchen type thing. How is this thing getting built? But everything that we have seen and heard indicates that is the truth, that this is Kellen Moore's offense. Nick is spending more time elsewhere in the building, is not in, he's not in every offensive meeting, and that is actually the way that this is going. And I think that is interesting.
Yeah. And to add to that point, I think one of the problems in 2020, and the Eagles will tell you COVID and all that, but they wanted like Rich Gangarello to come in and add these concepts to Doug Peterson and Press Taylor's offense. And
We're gathered here today for the marriage of the passing game and the running game.
Yeah. And it ended up being like,
marriage.
No one knew what the hell. Yeah, that's from This Is Us.
Marriage.
No one knew it.
It's what brings us together.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to watch that with Casey this weekend. I'm going to introduce him to the Princess Bride.
Oh, no, that's from This Is Us. Remember that? That's a callback to longtime listeners. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I had forgotten about it, and okay. it did serve the purpose of momentarily making me very angry.
Okay.
Well done.
Yes. So point being there that this is, Kellen Moore's here, and it's not just Kellen Moore, like it's Doug Nussmeier, right? And what's interesting is in the past, you would hear Jalen talk about like Nick and Patullo, right? And everything today was Kellen and Doug, right?
True.
It's Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier. And I think the rest of the offensive coaches are learning the Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier offense.
All right, Zach, I do have a bit of a surprise for you before we close the show today, as I know Brennan needs to get this ready. But first of all, I'm not going to be on the show tomorrow. So I would like to say congratulations to Chris, our dynamic social media man who does way more than that and can do so many different things. He's getting married this weekend. We hope that everything goes well. Congratulations. Well deserved. Get some well-earned time off. He's a superstar. But he was able to put something together from our time at the Brian Dawkins Memorial or the Brian Dawkins Impact Foundation golf event on Monday. Zach had a putter in his hand for the first time. We get to see how it went.
Outside of mini golf, yes.
All right, this is embarrassing. I wish this wasn't filmed. We need to go to the batting cage one day.
We could do that too.
Yeah. What's the slope situation?
It's a little left to right.
I have played the video game.
Okay. Tiger Woods?
Yeah.
You see the green?
So and you do the math based on
yeah.
I wish they had those calculations here.
For him, no.
All right, the left or right was tough.
It's good. You got it there.
Yeah, that was a practice. Let's delete that one. Sorry. Goes in my head.
It's a rocket.
It's a fast course today.
Sure for that hole. It might go in.
Right. Lifting too much, right? That's the
Oh! Zach.
First made putt of the day.
First made putt of my life. Outside of like mini golf. Yeah.
Drano nails it.
I thought we were showing everybody shots. I want to make it clear. When I say first made shot of the day, that was not first made shot by me. That was the first made shot of anyone in the day, including Bo and Jamie are like real good golfers. These guys have like the garb. They speak the language. They know their way around a golf course, right? All I know, like I need the lighthouse.
Fifth putt. You nailed it. You banged it in.
Yeah, I got lucky. Broken clocks right twice a day.
Zach.
But yeah, I don't know how to golf. I want to learn how to. That was great work by Chris, by the way. But I thought it was going to show. I thought it was going to show everybody's putts, and we were playing what closest to the hole. Is that what it's called? Closest to the pin. And
it was just a little putting contest. You're the only one who made one.
I was the only one who made one there. So I got lucky. I admit that there was no touch to that.
To be fair, a few of the worst putts I've ever seen in my life, but that's okay. You're a new guy.
Yeah, but it's like finding a girlfriend. You don't need them all to like you. You just need one, right? And so I didn't need to make all the putts. I just needed to make one.
Okay. Just like finding a girlfriend. I like that. All right, Zach. Anything else from today to talk about? Do you want to touch on anything that the corners said or Mekhi Becton, or would you like to get into that with Rich tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll get into that with Rich tomorrow, and then we hit the next 5 weeks as well. We'll have ample opportunity to talk about that. I do think the big news today was, Jeffrey, the front office. I'm glad we hit on that. We'll wrap things up. I think what I'll do is when we do tick Zach Bo with Rich, some of the prompts might be like he picks the question, but then I provide like insight on the answer, right? For the Eagles part in particular. So he picks it, and then I have to answer it, and then the other two categories will be more Rich centric. That's a way for us to address what we saw specifically at training camp during the past week.
There you go.
I should say mini camp.
Well, that'll do it in that case for this wrap up of Eagles minicamp. Much more to come over the next weeks and months as we prepare for them coming back for training camp. For Zach and Brenna hanging out today and everybody watching live, we thank you very much. We will talk to you tomorrow at noon. For all of us here, as always, we love you.